All right. We're going to kick off this conference just how it should be kicked off with an amazing keynote speaker. This morning, I am excited, honored, delighted, all of the above, to welcome Ian Coldwater. I've asked everyone to include a link to a charity they support, which will be featured in the Discord. And Ian's is the nationalbailout.org, so find a link there. And they have a hidden talent, which is finding four-leaf clovers, which is fantastic. I have never found one in my life. I'm not convinced they exist, but if they do, Ian will find it. Please, everyone, give a warm virtual welcome to Ian Coldwater.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me all right? I'm going up to the podium. All right, I got my slides going. Can you see me? Can you hear me? Okay, awesome. Hi, everyone. My name is Ian Coldwater, and I am incredibly honored to be here today at Deserted Island DevOps, the first virtual conference, as far as I know, of any kind, certainly in tech, to be held in Animal Crossing. This is really awesome, and I'm super excited to be here. And thank you all, people who are here and people who are watching, for being here with me too. So this talk is called Bridge Construction Kit. DevOps and security don't have to be islands. And it's about how DevOps and security folks can work better together. And I am clicking this. Okay, so hi, my name's Ian. I'm a lead platform security engineer at Heroku, and I specialize in hacking and hardening Kubernetes, containers, and cloud infrastructure. In Animal Crossing, my name is '1=1, which is a SQL injection string, and I run Goose Cloud Platform out of my basement. I do not necessarily recommend naming your Animal Crossing name a SQL injection string because it will cause problems with various kinds of turnip exchange apps and things that you might not have foreseen beforehand, at least if you're me. So, starting the talk out, first things first, it's important to note that the dichotomy between DevOps and security is false. Really, the entire premise that this talk is titled on is kind of BS, because really, DevOps and security shouldn't be islands. They shouldn't be separated out like that, but often they are. So I just want to acknowledge that before moving on. But the pain points are real. In fact, there are a lot of gaps. A lot of the time, DevOps and security don't necessarily see each other as being on the same side. Sometimes they fight. Sometimes they can be at odds. But I think that engineering teams and security teams can work better together. So let's talk about how we got here and maybe some ideas about how we can do better. Because silos are for grain. So how did we get here? How did we get to this place? You can see it everywhere. You can see it in organizations, large and small, where perhaps engineering sees security as blockers or people who slow them down. And perhaps security sees engineers as people who are moving fast, breaking things, and not necessarily keeping security at top of mind all the time. This can lead to acrimony, blame, and various kinds of other issues. And you can see it everywhere. The Phoenix Project, which I think a lot of folks coming from the DevOps community who are watching this have read, is considered sort of one of the classics in explaining DevOps culture. And when people start in these kinds of roles, a lot of the time we get handed that book, right? So if you think about the security character in the Phoenix Project, he's basically the closest thing the book has to a villain. He never really gets redeemed. He's really difficult to work with. He's kind of mean, and he makes the project harder. a lot of the time the compliance and requirements and things that he's looking for are seen as kind of unnecessary and annoying. And the way that he acts around them, being really sort of rigid and making demands of the engineers, isn't really seen in the book as helpful. I tell security folks to read the Phoenix Project all the time, not only because it's important to understand where DevOps cultural ideas come from, especially a book that's like sort of that classic and iconic, but also to understand how people see us, because people don't necessarily always see us well. So how did we get to this place? What we've got here is a failure to communicate. The communicator parts might be hidden in the sand. People aren't necessarily talking to each other or understanding each other in the ways that they could. I think that we could do better at building relationships, communicating with one another, and approaching one another with empathy. Because when we don't communicate well, this leads to gaps. Maybe your communicator parts are rusty. Maybe it's broken. Maybe you can't talk to anybody. And this is really problematic. It's problematic in a few ways. It's problematic in terms of human relations, people not getting along, people not hearing or talking to or understanding one another. And it leads to gaps in the quality of the kinds of software that we build and ship. And I know as DevOps folks, we're all about continuous improvement, but that can make it hard when people aren't really talking or getting along. And frankly, it can lead to gaps in security, because when security folks and engineers aren't communicating with one another properly, that can mean that maybe security folks who aren't as close to the code base might not be as aware of what's happening in there. And engineers who are closer to the code base and maybe can see things that maybe don't feel quite right in there aren't going to want to approach the security people to talk to them about it. Because why would you? If you see something wrong and you want to fix it, and I do think that, unlike some security people, I think that most developers want to do well. I think developers have a lot going on. They have sprint deadlines and things to deal with, and a lot of things to consider and a lot of balls in the air. But I don't think that most people want to do badly. But the thing is, if security people make it so hard to approach or talk with them, and every time a security person gets talked to, it results in them being yelled at, bugs being filed, their sprint being harder, them getting in trouble, if we're really not looking at blameless postmortems at all, that can mean that maybe you just won't talk about the security flaws. Maybe they go into production. Maybe they stay there. And we all know where that goes. Nowhere good. It goes to insecure software, people getting popped, O-days, all the things. And it just doesn't feel very good for people. So let's think about ways that we can improve that, since we're about continuous improvement here. DevOps. Hi, I love you. I want to talk to you for a second. DevOps folks are amazing. DevOps culture is amazing. Think about the amazing things that we've all built. We've made things that move so quickly. We've made such technological innovation, and the creativity and positivity and trust that drives that is often a really beautiful thing to see. It creates beautiful communities of people who generally get along and assume well of each other. And it means that people can innovate really fast and do really cool stuff. But also, sometimes that means that DevOps folks can be at risk of leaving other people behind. Sometimes container folks, cloud folks, can seem to security people like they're speaking a completely different language, because often they are. Security people might just not be aware of what's happening technologically on that side of the house. DevOps folks aren't necessarily super good at even writing documentation for ourselves and each other, much less explaining things to other people. And by the time the docs are written, a lot of the time the software has already moved on. So security people, I think, again, often want to do well, but aren't necessarily given the tools to be able to understand what's happening technologically, much less be able to secure it. So I think that DevOps folks can communicate with security folks better in terms of what is actually happening here? What are we using? What is the strange language we're speaking? And I think that being able to approach security folks with empathy, because a lot of the time they are struggling to learn this new technology. Maybe they've been around for a long time and they're used to stuff on-prem, and the cloud has kind of come in and the ground has moved from underneath them. That can be hard for people. So being able to have some understanding for that and approach security people with empathy can be really important. Also, DevOps people, when you assume trust all the time, sometimes you make things with really open defaults, and sometimes those things can be really insecure. So it's important to understand that not everybody thinks like you. One good way to understand that is to talk more to security people. That said, security people, you need to be able to have people talk to you without people thinking that you're jerks, and without yelling at other folks. You need to approach developers and ops people and DevOps people with empathy and not yell at them all the time. And you need to be able to keep up with these new technological paradigms to the best of your ability and understand how they work to understand how to secure them, because it can be really hard to secure a thing if you don't understand it. Sometimes security people can end up in these situations where they're applying old on-prem logic to the cloud, and it just doesn't necessarily work super well. Sometimes security people use such outdated models of regulation and compliance and understanding of how this stuff works that a lot of the time it just doesn't seem like it can be applicable at all. So security folks, you need to put in the work to learn, to understand, to talk to folks, and frankly, to be nice. Because this is how people see us. They see us as a team of no, and nobody likes it. So let's not be that guy. Nobody wants to be a raccoon landlord, honestly. Because it's just really not great to be seen as people who aren't on the same side, because we are. We are on the same side. And we can do better. We can all do better. We can do better for ourselves. We can do better for each other. And we can do better for the products we build and the organizations we're part of. We need to communicate with one another better. I know that we're all busy moving fast and breaking things and chasing our dreams, shooting for the stars. And that's awesome. But also, it's important to loop security in and communicate with what's going on with them and stay in communication with them. And the earlier you do that, the better it can go. And security folks, you need to be open to listening. Take the time to do that. Take the energy to do that. Use the empathy to do that. It helps. And all of us, everybody watching this, everybody speaking, everybody has something to teach and something to learn. All of us do. And in this process of learning to work together and communicate better and craft better recipes, each of us can bring what we're good at. We can learn from DevOps. We can learn from DevOps culture. We can learn from DevOps principles. Because DevOps is pretty awesome. DevOps people are pretty awesome. DevOps culture is pretty awesome. We can learn about continuous improvement. We can learn about how to move quickly, how to innovate, how to trust, how to build these kinds of communities and cultural changes and new ideas, because that's beautiful. Security people can learn a lot from that on a lot of levels. And we can learn from security people too, because frankly, not everybody thinks the same way. Not all users are good. And it's important to be able to threat model for malicious users, understand the ways that our software can be used by people who might not have quite the same use cases we do, in ways that we might not necessarily intend when we're building it. We can learn from security folks about the ways that they think, and we can use that to be able to consider other perspectives and be able to build better software as we're moving past and breaking things by learning from people who maybe break things. Security isn't a blocker. I promise we're really not here to make your day sad. Security is integral to the process. We're all integral to the process because we're all on the same team. We can craft better relationships with one another. We can meet each other with empathy, come to understand where each other are coming from. When you're talking to somebody and the things they're saying seem to make no sense, a thing to think about is like, what is this person's goals? What are they going for? What do they see as the blockers? Because if we're all just talking and waiting for our turn to talk and not really listening or making the effort to understand, that doesn't help. And if we do that, then we can be like, oh, I don't understand that use case, but I understand that this feels really important to this person. How can I, as a security person, for example, become somebody who can help this thing happen, who can help this person meet this goal? And then once we do that, maybe we can start to think of each other as being on the same team, working toward the same goals. Even if they are sometimes at odds, or even if we don't understand them, making that effort can really make a difference. And that takes time. It does take effort. It's not going to happen easily necessarily, and it's not going to happen overnight, especially if you are in a place that has a lot of history of acrimony between engineers and security. Building these relationships is going to take work, but it can be done. How do we do that? In the Kubernetes community, there's an expression, which is chop wood, carry water. I made it Animal Crossing flavored for this. And basically, it's putting in the work. It's being humble. It's doing the things. It's doing the things together and with each other and for each other. And I think that we can all learn from that, whether we're involved with Kubernetes or not. Also, shout out to the community. Y'all are great. We are, in fact, all on the same side. We're all trying to build better stuff. We're all trying to get through our sprints and through our days. And we can do better by ourselves and with each other. So don't be afraid to shake things up. Don't be afraid to do things differently. Just because something's always been done some way doesn't mean it always has to, because we can do it. We can break down those walls that cause those gaps. We can work to understand one another better and to build these kinds of better relationships so that we can work together better. The first time I gave this talk, I kind of thought that these kinds of relationships seemed like they were really important, but I had never really seen them work. And then I got a job somewhere that actually does things right. Shout out to Heroku. Shout out to my team. Y'all are great. It's been really amazing to be a part of a place that actually does that thing and is doing it well. It's been really consistently impressive, and it's been really awesome to know that it actually can happen. So for real, it can happen. It exists out there in the world. And what it takes is security folks being accessible to engineers, security folks building relationships with engineers, talking to one another, working closely with them, and being nice. My security team gets comments like, an engineer said, after working with us on a P0, which is a pretty high severity thing that happened, which worked out fine. He said, thank you all for being such wonderfully calm and supportive engineering partners. It's been a real pleasure to work with you. And thank you for providing an example for how security can work with engineers. It's really inspiring. And I think it's a thing we can all learn a lot from. Agreed. I do think it's a thing we can all learn a lot from, because there are people out there who are doing this well. and it can be done. And we can do it. Together, we can do it. Because honestly, where would we be if we never shot for the moon? Certainly not doing wild things like hosting conferences on island paradises. We can do it. I believe in you, and I believe in you, and I believe in all of us. And thank you very much.
Oh my goodness, Ian, that was amazing. I'm briefly going to give you some of my favorite comments that happened while you were talking, which is, these are the best slides. I want to share this with all my coworkers. I want to use this template for my next talk. And one quote in particular I like, it was, someone said, if I want bugs, I use the net, which made me laugh. So, oh my goodness. Thank you so much. Do you, we have a couple minutes. We can maybe do one question. If someone, we're trying to do them from the speaker Q&A. Do you mind if we do a question, or would you like to?
Go for it. Sure.
Okay, let's see. I'm checking the speaker Q&A channel in Discord. A lot of thank yous, Ian. So just know that you are much appreciated in this community, and so is your dress.
Thank you. I really appreciate you having me, and I really appreciate everybody who watched.
Excellent. I'm just saying, I can see people are typing, so I'm trying to like be a little patient just in case there's, you know. And also people are just, I think they've all fallen in love with you during this talk, if they weren't already. So I apologize, the speaker Q&A channel, try to get those in there before the end of the talk, just because we have limited time. But let's all give another warm thank you to Ian for being our keynote and for being just so fabulous. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Have a wonderful conference, y'all. Chop some trees, catch some bees.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Should I stop sharing? Do you hit the button? How's that work?
All
right.
Yeah.
Thank you all very much. Have a good con.
Thank you. And then I stand at the podium.
And then I walk away from the podium.